When I do my speaking and training around the country, I speak to all kinds of different audiences. White collar executives, blue collar workers, people from just about every kind of segment of the economy have to go and do occasionally some continuing education. And what I've noticed over time is a very big difference between people that come to my sessions that are there to learn and grow and are listening and taking notes, and the people there that obviously don't want to grow. They don't want to listen. They kind of resent being there. And I've seen some patterns emerge that I think are kind of interesting. I'll tell you, the first thing I've noticed is the difference between people who are paying their own way to be there and people whose employer is making them come to some training. I'd say who I love doing training for are independent business owners, people who are in business for themselves. They're attending some training with money out of their own pocket. They're taking time away from their business to invest in self-development. Those people pay attention and take notes, and they're a lot of fun to speak to. People who their employer has made them come, and it's mandatory, and there's a sign-up sheet going around. Generally, we find a few people in those audiences that are a little more closed-minded, a little less interested and excited about learning and growth. And I've noticed two interesting trends as far as professions when it comes to the people that are closed-minded to learning new strategies and ideas in my training. And they're both very counterintuitive. The first one is teachers. I'm not totally sure why. I think I know why, but I do a lot of training for teachers, probably at least 50 events that I've done with audiences that consist of teachers. And you would think that teachers work in the field of education. They're all about learning and growth. But my observation has been that while they're very passionate about teaching other people, generally speaking, less interested and passionate about someone teaching them. And I'm not picking on teachers. I love teachers. I used to be a teacher. My daughter's going to school to be a teacher. But I'm telling you, some of these teachers spend all day being the smartest person in the third grade, and they start thinking they're the smartest person in every room. And kind of argumentative and disagreeing, and I'll see them shaking their head and giving each and rolling their eyes. It's fascinating. And they end up just wasting their time. I really don't care. I get paid the same either way if they learn or don't learn. But it breaks my heart that these people who obviously have room for growth, because everyone has room for growth, are missing out on an opportunity to improve themselves and what they do. The other group that's counterintuitive, that's extremely closed-minded to learning new strategies on how to succeed in their careers, are professional salespeople. I do a lot of training for salespeople, probably over 200 events that I've done with people that are that work in sales. And you would think, especially these commission salespeople who are getting paid directly on their performance, would be all about new ideas and new strategies. That's what I used to think. And they're really not. And I think the reason is because, they have a hard job, and they're one of the only segments of the economy that are constantly getting measured based on their results. And so if they're not getting results in sales, they're gone. They lose their job. So the fact that they kept their job means that they're pretty good at doing their job. Well, the enemy of great is good. And so my, challenge to these people is, boy, is it possible that there are some ways of doing your job that you've never even thought of? Most of them are pretty convinced that the way they're doing it is not just the best way. In some cases, it's the only way. So there's a little exercise I do whenever I'm speaking to a group of teachers or a group of professional salespeople, and it involves a banana. That I'll ask someone in the audience, hey, I'm looking for a volunteer to come up and do a demonstration for me. And someone will come up and I'll say, hey, can you demonstrate for me how you peel bananas? This is not very hard. You've been peeling bananas your whole life. And they take the banana, and invariably, always, they start with the stem, and they start, sometimes it gets a little bent and smushed, but then they pull it down, and they're like, all right, this is how you peel a banana. And I say, okay, great job. Not bad. That's how most people would probably do it. But my challenge to the audience is, did you know that that's not the only way to peel a banana? In fact, in most of the world, that's not how they peel bananas, right? That is what's called the American way of peeling bananas, to peel it from the stem side. But you get these little strings coming down the side. and sometimes it's hard to get going. You got to dig your fingernail in there and to get it going. In most other countries in the world, they peel bananas differently, and not just other countries, but monkeys peel bananas differently too. They don't start with the stem; they start on this end. And another strategy to peel a banana is to just pinch the top of the banana. It splits, and you just peel it down. Very simple. You don't get as many of those little strings. You don't smush the banana. It's another way to peel it. And then my challenge for the audience is, by the way, most people are like, oh, I'd never heard of that before. People all the time are like, I was 0 years old when I learned that there was another way to peel a banana. And the point is, if something as simple as peeling a freaking banana, there is another way to do it that you've never heard of, never thought of, maybe a better way to do it. Is it possible that something as complex as working as a professional educator, or working as a professional salesperson, or parenting, or owning a business of your own, is it possible that there are strategies that you've never considered? So my challenge to everyone watching this video is to open your mind to new strategies, new ideas, new ways of solving problems that maybe you haven't even ever heard of before. Now, open-mindedness can be a tricky topic because some people feel that open-mindedness is a virtue, and it's not. You know, some people think you should just be open-minded to anything, that all behaviors, all ideas are equally valuable, and that's not true. There's some things that are right and some things that are wrong. And so I think it starts with knowing what you believe and why. I have certain core values. There's things that I feel are right and wrong, and I'm not open-minded to changing those, right? Stealing, I think, is wrong under any circumstances. Looting someone's business or store, it's wrong, no matter how upset you are, no matter what you're upset about, right? Beating your kids, beating your spouse, those are wrong. I'm not open-minded to those as something that's a great idea and something that I should, maybe consider. But there are some things that I am open-minded to. Experts recommend an idea called intellectual humility, which is being open and willing to change, but also having the wisdom to know what you're not going to change. And that starts with having some core values. But when it comes to strategies of accomplishing things, I think it pays to be open-minded. One of the authors I respect is a guy named Bob Johansen. I read one of his books called Leaders Make the Future, and I learned a new vocabulary word, and the word is VUCA. VUCA is an acronym that came out of research being done at the U.S. Army War College in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. It's where all of the generals in the U.S. Army have studied leadership for the last 200 years. And what they realized is after 9/11 is that the world has changed. Right? We don't even always know who the enemy is or where they are. They're not wearing uniforms. Who's paying for what they're doing? And so this idea of VUCA, it's an acronym. It means that the world is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Right? It's volatile. Things are changing faster than they've ever changed before. It's uncertain. It's harder to predict what those changes are going to look like. It's complex. There's more people involved with every decision. Have you noticed that at work? You can't just hardly make a decision anymore without everybody having an opinion on what you should do and why. And it's ambiguous. It's just kind of foggy sometimes and hard to get your mind around, the situation and the challenges you face. And so VUCA. And so Bob Johansen's kind of a thought leader in this. He works for a think tank called the Institute for the Future. And I read a quote of his and I said, oh, that is so money and that really helps me. Here's what he said. The kind of strategy that works in a VUCA world is to be very clear about where you're going, but very flexible on how you get there. Here's why that resonated with me. Almost all of the organizations that I've ever worked with, and we're talking about thousands, have been the exact opposite of that. They really don't know where they're going, but they are very strict on how they're going to get there. Much more focus on policies and procedures and rules than on things like vision and direction and purpose. And so as you are trying to navigate the VUCA world that you're living in, that's my challenge to you. You have to know, here's what we're trying to accomplish. How are we going to get there? I don't totally know. right? Like I have a purpose in my life that one of the things that I'm trying to accomplish is to help teach people to live victoriously and abundantly. I typically do that doing presentations and public speaking to large audiences, sometimes hundreds or thousands of people. Well, now that we're in 2020, that's happening a lot less. And so I'm flexible on how I'm trying to influence and impact people. That's why I started this YouTube channel. And so great advice from Bob Johansen. I will tell you, I had something kind of cool that happened. I was quoting him in one of my sessions. I spoke at a conference in Southern California, and someone in the audience said, hey, my daughter actually works for the Institute for the Future. And told Bob Johansen that I had quoted him, and he sent me, this just last year, a free copy of his new book, The New Leadership Literacies. And he inscribed it inside, to Jeff Joyner, hope this is helpful in your important work. And I was like, that's pretty cool. That gives me some credibility that somebody who's writing a book about leadership actually does really cool kind of leadership, encouraging developmental things with his time and money. So if you ever see this, Dr. Johansen, I appreciate it. And that's a great book too. So anyway, open up your mind. Next time you peel a banana, I want you to think about, I want you to try it the new way. Just try things a little bit differently. Get out of your comfort zone. Even little things like everybody take your fingers and cross them like this. Now shift them a little bit. Well, that feels weird. That doesn't feel right. The same thing with your arms. Everybody, cross your arms for a second. I do this with audiences all the time. That feels comfortable. Everybody does. You don't even think about it. Now cross them the other way. Well, that doesn't quite feel quite right. But the more you get out of your comfort zone, the more you open up your mind to the idea that maybe you don't have all the answers. That creates an opportunity for you to learn and to grow and to accomplish amazing things with your life.